The sources say that North Korea is set to reopen its borders on June 10th and even allow visitors for the first time since the pandemic lockdowns. That's not all. Some movement has also been detected in the closed-off Kaesong Industrial Region too. For more on the latest up north, let's turn to Jacco Zwestloot from the NK News podcast. Great to have you back on the program, Jacco.
Thank you for having me on the show, Dami.
Good morning. According to the report, 2 travel companies in China's Liaoning were notified by North Korea that the North will welcome back tourists. Now, if this is the case, will it be just Chinese tourists only? I mean, to what extent do you think the regime will reopen?
Now, I think we must be careful because the reporting that I've seen so far is based on an unnamed source who claims to have been briefed. And 2 unnamed Liaoning travel agencies. So until North Korea makes an official statement through its media or we actually see Chinese tour buses crossing the Friendship Bridge, I'm reserving judgment. I expect there to be a staged opening of the border with some trade first, followed by diplomats, and then tourists and travel and other visitors will be much further down the line. But I may be wrong. We'll see how that goes. Now, But as for tourism to North Korea in general, I dove into the archives of reporting done by my colleagues at NK News and found an article from July 2019, so the year before the pandemic started, that cited a North Korean travel official who said that more than 200,000 foreign tourists had visited North Korea in 2018, and 90% of those were Chinese. So it makes sense that if North Korea does want to get its tourist income rising again, it should focus on Chinese tourists first. Now, a Westerner who used to work for a tour company told me that the North Korean guides prefer Chinese tourists because they're less likely to make trouble and more likely to follow the rules and not go where they shouldn't be going while on a trip to North Korea. So I don't see North Korea in a great rush to bring in non-Chinese tourists because they're much smaller in number and they're relatively more likely to get in trouble with North Korean security agencies. What kind of tours are they likely to engage in when they do go back to North Korea? It's mostly short tourism, for example, one-day trips across the river into Siniju in the west or Rason in the east, or multiple day trips down to Pyongyang and the demilitarized zone. Chinese tourists seem to feel a sense of nostalgia going to North Korea because it reminds them of simpler times in communist China's long ago past.
Right. Nothing has been made official yet, so we have to wait on the official statement, actually from the North. Now, sticking with the recent reports, the Voice of America reported earlier this week as well that the North appears to be illegally operating factories in the Kaesong Industrial Region. Now, if that's true, Jacco, what does that mean?
Yes, I think this was all kicked off by an announcement from the South Korean Ministry of Unification saying that various sources and methods of intelligence gathering had led the South Korean government to believe that around 10 factories in Kaesong are being run by North Korea, but it didn't specify which factories or what sort. So Voice of America used Google satellite imagery to identify buses apparently bringing workers to a leather goods factory and a shoe factory and a clothing factory. Last month also a Republic of Korea government official said that North Korea was apparently trying to attract new Chinese investment into the Kaesong industrial complex, which, if it did happen, would be, in fact, a breach of UN sanctions. And what this all means is that North Korea has decided to use this fine asset built by South Korea for its own ends after it was closed down by the South Korean government about 7 years ago. Just days after Kaesong was closed in February 2016, the North Korean government announced that it would freeze South Korean assets at Kaesong and put them under the control of its military. And now it seems that its military may have handed control over to industries and manufacturing firms. I can understand why North Korea would want to do that, but it won't make the original South Korean investors happy seeing their factories and other assets being used by North Korea to do things that they will not benefit from.
Right. And Jacco, before we let you go briefly, North Korea has long been saying that it is ready to launch its first reconnaissance satellite, spy satellite. Now, why do you think the North is yet to do so? I mean, I know it's entirely up to the leader, Kim Jong-un, but when do you think the launch will actually take place?
Yeah, well, the possible reasons why this launch has been delayed are largely technical, such as maybe certain parts not holding up under inspection or testing, or the weather conditions not being right, or the launch pad not being ready, or problems with the fuel loading. I mean, those are just some of the many possible reasons, but most of those reasons are internal and technical. I don't think that there are external reasons like the threat of sanctions that could prevent North Korea from launching a satellite. It is possible that the Chinese leadership could be discouraging North Korea from launching a satellite right now, but I don't see that as the most likely reason. North Korea did say initially that they wanted to launch a satellite in April, and it seems that Kim Jong-il had some desire to do that, but yet for some reason there's a delay. When will the launch take place? Making predictions on when North Korea will do X, Y, Z is a favorite pastime of some pundits.
Right.
Now, I've been asking people on the NK News podcast since last year when North Korea might do a next nuclear test. It hasn't happened yet, so anybody who thought it might happen by now is already wrong. So the safest thing for me is to say North Korea launched a satellite 5 minutes ago. That way you won't have to wait very long to find out whether I'm right or not.
I see. Maybe they are still looking at their calendar to pick the best date for the so-called historic day for themselves.
Yeah.
All right, Jacco, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Again, have a lovely day.
Thank you very much, Tommy.